Memorable occasion for the Song for Sue Foundation. Just bear with me, sorry. Lewis has been following my personal journey. Excuse me, sorry.
Go on, my love.
Lewis has been following my personal journey from the very start and has given me this very special opportunity to stand here in front of you all today and to speak to you all tonight. This is slightly terrifying for me, as you can tell. I may have a facial spasm or two, which you'll see if it happens, and I will forget what I'm saying. So I do get a bit tongue-tied, but thankfully I've got Sally, my best friend and volunteer, as well as my notes on my iPad, I wish it was, my iPhone to help me out. Thank you to modern technology, the joys of having a brain tumour. This is my second visit to the Queen's Stand, and at last, I'm delighted to tell you that I felt very privileged to make full use of the Queen's facility and had a number 2 in her toilet. A moment I'll never forget, although I do have a bad memory. May she rest in peace. My name is Lisa Connell, and in 2016, at the age of 26, I was diagnosed with inoperable meningioma. I should add that I'm now 43, but don't tell anyone on social media. My tumour, although benign, is classified as terminal due to its size and position in my brain. I must also point out that the term benign is used very broadly. Benign just means it won't spread to other parts of the body. It doesn't mean that it's not terminal. I refer to my tumour as an octopus. Why? Because it has a massive lump in the centre of my brain, sitting on my brain stem, with lots of tentacle layers hanging out all over the place. I could get a bit emotional here, so please bear with me. Joys of my brain tumour and being perimenopausal at the same time. You're probably wondering where my journey began. Well, I can tell you that nothing is ever straightforward for me, and I'm a firm believer in that things always happen for a reason. And it's because of those reasons that I stand here today. Where do I start? So, back in 2004, I made a decision to live the dream and I moved to Thailand. In the 10 months that I was living there, I formed a relationship with a guy from Essex. I'll try and be brief. One day I had a call from my best friend back in London saying that her dad had just died of cancer. Within 30 minutes, that very same guy had a phone call from his cousin saying that his uncle had just died of cancer. It was the same man, so we have mutual connections. I knew I had to go back to England to support my best friend, and he did too. We were back in the UK when I found out I was pregnant. In short, we didn't end up moving back to Thailand, and we decided to stay. During the 4 months that I carried, I went from being a relatively normal human being, if you can call it that, to developing a squint in my eyes. I suffered with hearing loss in my left ear, which actually, if they had investigated further when I was a child, they would have seen that it was one of the tentacle layers of my tumour growing within my ear canal. That's another story, but I won't go into that. So I had problems with my balance and my depth perception, and I literally was falling all over the place. My speech wasn't great either. Unfortunately, at 4 months I miscarried, and my relationship ended abruptly and things became very physical. I ended up back in an old flat in Barnet with nothing but the clothes on my back. That's when my dad offered to give me his car so I could get around. Good old dad, I suppose. I remember collecting the car from Essex where he lived and driving back along the M25 when I suddenly panicked. I'd driven into a fast lane, as you do, and it was then that things started to go wrong for me. It felt like I was playing a computer game. All the cars from the slow lane were crossing over to the fast lane, and I couldn't even see what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to get off the motorway or how I was going to get into the slow lane at that point. It was then that I managed to work out that if I closed one eye, the game appeared to stop. I finally managed to get home safely, but with that I smashed into a bollard, a width restriction, on the way back, and I immediately called my dad, who told me to go back to the optician straight away. With that, having left, I recently seen an ophthalmologist, and he prescribed me new glasses. So my dad said, go for another opinion, go somewhere else. The ophthalmologist I went to had specialist equipment and took one look in my eye and sent me straight to the Moorfields Eye Hospital that very same day. I had no idea why I was being sent there. When I arrived, I was under the impression that I was being seen for a squint that I developed. I was told I would need to book an MRI scan and come back 6 weeks later to assess what was going on, and hopefully, they'll be able to give me surgery to correct my squint. I went back following my MRI 6 weeks later, having waited 2 hours to be seen by a doctor, and advised I'd probably need to wait a further 6 months for another MRI to evaluate my squint, and then once that had stabilised, they'd be able to perform surgery. I remember asking them, well, what about my MRI? What did that show up? The doctor just looked at me in astonishment. He left me in the cubicle for an hour and a half, waiting, until he finally came back with an entourage of students along his side. I'm afraid it's not good news, the doctor said. There's me thinking I wouldn't be able to correct my squint. He told me the MRI scan had detected a brain tumour. I don't really remember much else from the appointment except bursting into tears and not knowing where to look or turn. The students were just overlooking me. All I remember thinking is that I was dying. I immediately went to the toilets and rang my dad. Looking back, that's my only regret in life. Telling him whilst he was at work, and so abruptly. He told me to come back anytime with my parents to discuss what we had just discussed, and we did. We went back to Moorfields, and he sent my scans all around the world looking for opinion after opinion. They all said the same thing. It was an inoperable brain tumour, and although it was benign, it would ultimately kill me. I have what's known as a meningioma. As I said before, due to its size and location within my brain, any growth now would be detrimental to my health. I would always ask the same thing: how long have I got? The answer? They didn't know. It could be months or it could be years. They just didn't have enough research into my type of tumour. In 2008, I underwent gamma knife treatment, which unfortunately didn't work, and subsequently they found out my tumour was still growing. I'd got to the stage where I would intermittently lose movement in all my legs. At that stage, I was told I would never ever be able to walk again. On top of that, I had severe headaches. They worsened due to the pressure build-up in my brain, and my energy levels were on an all-time low. I developed speech impairments, and I was suffering with memory loss. I felt like I was in a losing battle. Sorry, so.
You're doing great.
It was around this time that my dad had a conversation with one of his work colleagues, and he found out he too had the same type of tumour, a meningioma, and he'd been diagnosed 10 years prior to that, and also he was wheelchair bound. I was too proud, I wouldn't go in a wheelchair. I was 26. Immediately, my dad arranged us for us both to meet up. I remember the day because my mum had driven me into central London to meet them both for lunch, and I remember all three carrying me out of the car and escorting me across the road. I really wasn't in a good way. Tony's advice to me was to get to the gym and to get exercising on my balance and coordination. He said he'd done it, and that's how he managed to retrain his brain to walk again. To look at him now, you would never have believed he was in a wheelchair, let alone there was anything wrong with him. I just knew that if he could do it, I could too. At that stage in my life, I'd already attempted to take my life. I just felt there was no hope for me, and this was not the way I wanted to go. So with that, my dad got me membership at my local David Lloyd, and I spent 5 hours a day, 5 days a week in the gym with a personal trainer, concentrating on balance and coordination. In a space of 6 weeks, I managed to complete a program they thought would take me 6 months or even more. How? Through pure determination. It wasn't long after that I participated in a London 10k run for Brain Tumour UK, and I think they're called the Brain Tumour Charity now, albeit I was walking and running at the same time. As I stand in front of you today, I cannot tell you how blessed I feel that I am here, knowing that so many people like Sue sadly lost their fight with their brain tumour. And that is why I've set out to not only fight for my own brain tumour battle, but to fight to raise the awareness of this dreadful condition that affects so many others that is still not as recognised as a fundamental disease when it comes to funding for research and in some cases for support for patients. In 2010, I had an idea. Being single, I wondered if I could go back into the dating scene, and it was at that point that I was told by some guy he would pay to go for a date with me. So I said, okay, put your money where your mouth is. And I guess that's how you could say that Rent a Date for Charity was born. From there, I was able to arrange meet and greets with celebrities through a website, and I received quite a lot of media attention, both nationally and internationally. And I appeared on several TV channels. I even had a PR agency put on an inspirational ball for me, which raised a lot of money, and things seemed to be going really well. This was 12 years ago, and I was reliant on volunteers. This was when websites were still relatively basic, and Facebook, well, it just died, basically. It was still quite new. I was working day and night on my project, which sadly had to end due to my health deteriorating. Since then, a lot has happened for me. My octopus, which I like to refer to it as, continued to grow. I ended up debulking surgery in 2012, albeit they only took 5%, so it wasn't really worth talking about. This was to allow for a second lot of radiotherapy in 2013, which I then found out 4 years later had allowed my octopus to stay stable. However, my biggest achievement yet was the birth of my beautiful daughter, Ruby, who is now 6. If you can recall, my brain tumour journey started after I'd miscarried back in 2005. And for that reason, I was told I could never have children, and nor should I ever get pregnant, because the hormones would trigger the tumour to grow more. At the time I'd fallen pregnant, I was fitted with a copper coil, believe it or not, one that doesn't release any hormones. I'd also just been booked in to be sterilised. Remember what I said to you earlier, things always happen to me for a reason. Obviously, everyone never talk about my own story. Obviously, everyone around me was concerned not only for my life, but also for that of my unborn child. Everything, as I said, happens for a reason. I might not know what that reason is at the time, but it soon comes to fruition. I feel so blessed to have Ruby in my life, and it's definitely my driving force for what's to come. Last year, in a conversation with one of the members of Brain Tumour Research, they reignited my passion to finish what I'd started back in 2010. So today, I stand in front of you more determined than ever to relaunch Rent a Date for Charities, or as we like to refer to it as Project Go-Go. This is not, I repeat, not a dating site, but it will be a unique initiative creating an opportunity for charities to reach out to a new audience and to fundraise in a fun and unique way. Plus, I want it to be a platform for people to sit up and listen and be educated on the impact of brain tumours. Personally, this project will give me the opportunity to come off universal credit, despite all my best efforts in a relatively normal job. If you're like me, you'll know that having a brain tumour makes things very difficult to get employment, especially with an employee who doesn't truly understand what you're going through. So by relaunching this project, I'll be my own boss, well kind of, because Sally and Mandy will keep me on my toes. My aim is to create a business where I can give hope to other brain tumour patients who feel that they are being overlooked or worse still, ignored when it comes to getting back into work. And most of all, I'm doing this for my daughter's future. As I'm sure you can appreciate, this is not the best climate to be seeking sponsorship or investment funding to enable us to build this platform to its true potential, and my timing may not be ideal, but as I'm sure you will know, I don't give up easily. If anyone is looking or knows someone who will be interested in investing in a unique fundraising initiative, then please come and see me, because I'll be here for the rest of the night. I'm sure you're all itching to have your dessert and yet another drink. I know I need a shot. So I won't keep you much longer. To conclude, my tumour is currently stable. I have actually been told that it can still grow again at any given time. There is no further treatments available to me, as we know, and I've had enough radiotherapy to last a lifetime. But I see this as a card that I've been given. A card that says you have a brain tumour and you could die of this brain tumour. However, I could also go outside and get run over like I did 3 years ago and die of that too. Life is one big cycle. We're born to grow, to learn, to marry, to have children, to work our socks off and make life as best as we can. And then of course we all have to die at some point in our lives. I simply live my life as if every day were my last. And to go to bed each night telling my daughter just how much I love her means more. No one knows when the life is going to end, no one. So please enjoy what you have and never look at the negatives. Always remain positive, not just for you, but for others too. Today I stand here in heels. My balance isn't what it used to be, and I plan on working on that. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. The brain is more powerful than we think, and we can achieve anything when we set our mind to it. I suffer greatly with fatigue. I have around 10 to 12 hemifacial spasms a day, depending on the weather and how much I laugh. Anything can trigger it. It's painful, and most of all, it's quite embarrassing, but I've learned to live with it. I have problems with the movement down my right side due to having a stroke during my debulking surgery, and every now and then I have a huge pressure build up in my head and I'm deaf in my left ear, but I'm still here. I'm standing and I'm very much still alive. I never had the privilege of meeting Sue, but I feel her presence being amongst her and her family and friends tonight. And please believe me when I say that as long as I am still here, I will be the voice for her and for all the others that I've met and who have lost their fight to a brain tumour. And together with Rent a Date for Charities, or Project Go-Go as we like to refer to it, and Song for Sue, and all the work all the amazing fundraising groups do out there, we will raise the all-important money for brain tumour research to allow for treatment and support for tomorrow. So thank you for listening and dealing with my speech. And I hope you have a great evening.